everybody. Welcome to Slam, the podcast that reviews every single DC superhero ever created. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at the origin of the superhero team, the Seven Soldiers of Victory.
That's right, and it's such a special occasion that recurring guest host Bex Luther has joined us. Thank you for joining us, Bex.
Hi, I'm here. I only show up for things that no one's ever heard of before. Aquaman, gross. Who wants to talk about Aquaman? I want to talk about the Seven Soldiers of Victory.
So tell us, speaking of things that we do or don't know, had you ever heard of the Seven Soldiers of Victory before this week?
Individually, yes. As a group, never heard of it.
Interesting. Josh, what about you?
No.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, but only because we reviewed the Grant Morrison Shining Knight.
Okay.
And that origin is connected with one of the origins we're going to be talking about today with the updated Seven Soldier story.
So here's the best way to summarize this is the Seven Soldiers are the leftover DC superheroes that were not included in the Justice Society. That's what they are, right?
The people that didn't get the invitation.
Right.
Yeah.
Now
For some reason.
The one thing I mean, some of these people are C-listers, right? Like the Star Spangled Kid and Stripesy.
And Stripesy, yeah, I would say maybe below the C list, but
Vigilante. But as we know, with hindsight is always 20/20. Green Arrow and Speedy are awesome, but maybe at the time they weren't considered awesome. The Shining Knight's pretty cool, and we must point out that the Crimson Avenger and Wing are technically the second superheroes after Superman. They were before Batman, so I think they were important enough to be included in the Justice Society, but they weren't. So,
it is kind of interesting the parallels that they have with a lot of the other teams. Like Green Arrow has continued. Shining Knight kind of seems like a Captain America stand-in, where he's kind of like a man out of time. Brought into the present to be part of this team, and
but in the 40s, the Captain America was not a man at a time.
No, for sure.
But 60s, yeah.
But I just mean how the Avengers team and even some of the DC teams, there's these archetypes that are familiar.
Sure.
Still to this day, so it's kind of interesting that a lot of these things kind of carried over.
So if I ever get hired by DC, my plan is to revive this concept because why not? I mean, and hey, this is copyright Michael Poirier, but there is besides Grant Morrison's revival, I mean, there is a new Crimson Avenger, right? There's a new, I mean, everyone knows Green Arrow. There's a new Vigilante, Adrian Chase, the one who's in Peacemaker, right? Mm-hmm. There's also Stargirl instead of Star Spangled Kid. I'm just saying, you could fill these all in with modern versions, right? Just a little idea I had that's outlined in full in my Google Drive. But anyway, so now...
Amazing.
Is the modern version of Wing less racist or more racist?
Ooh!
Yeah,
well, here's the thing. The one good thing about Wing is he is the only Asian superhero of the Golden Age. The bad thing about Wing is he's the only
Asian superhero of the 80s.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is rough.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, well, it can't get more racist than that. And then it did.
Yeah. So. And then even when it was done, that one, and I was like, finally, we're moving on to the JLA, I was still kind of hit with it a little bit. I was like, whoa, okay, we're still gonna...
It was only the 70s.
Yeah.
Well, but the other thing, too, that's never been admitted or acknowledged is that you'll notice that Wing is the only person who's not in the actual team. Like, Star Spangled Kid's partner, Stripesy, is a member. Green Arrow's partner, Speedy, is a member. But for some weird reason, Wing is not a member. And he's not even mentioned in JLA 100, I don't think, is he?
No,
or if he's not shown.
He's not in that issue, but he is in the next two.
Did you read them?
Yes, I did.
Look at you. Wow.
I wanted to know what happened. Not much.
Oh man.
Okay. We'll get to
Yeah.
that in a minute, but
Wait, I'll point out where he was supposed
Sure.
to be, where they tried to fix it.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, here's the thing: is that in my fan fiction view of the modern day Seven Soldiers, I would just base Wing on the way Kato was portrayed by Bruce Lee, right? Like he is the smart technical guy that builds Black Beauty and drives the cart, but he's also the kung fu expert. And Crimson Avenger / Green Hornet, because he's just an imitation of Green Hornet.
Mhm.
He's more like more the detective, maybe we'll say. But they each fill a role instead of one being just the driver for the other one. So anyway, just an idea.
Yeah,
Anyway.
there's a million ways that they can make this character a character instead of a
Caricature.
like prop, or a caricature of a whole group of people, but
Right.
uh
So here's the thing:
yeah.
we're actually not gonna. So we're not gonna summarize this issue, just like we technically didn't summarize the plot for All-Star Comics #3, because there's just so much to talk about. This is 64 pages. Now, thankfully, Becca is the only one that actually read it all the way through, because we only skim read it, Becca. But
what?
yeah,
yeah, I really did try. I got about halfway through and I was like, no, and I started flipping through okay, yep, next place, okay, that happened, yep, sure.
I get it.
It was
Guys,
ooh,
I'm getting bullied over here.
it was rough.
What the hell?
No,
Is it
no.
like different artists and writers for each story?
Yes, it actually is. Yes.
Because some of them were much better than others.
Which
So
honestly makes sense because I'll talk about it later, but the
Yeah.
whole story feels that way too. Like,
Well, let's just say that basically, okay, so this is the premise of the issue, is that a bad guy named
the Crimson Hand.
the hand is told that he's going to die. He's given a fatal diagnosis.
Mhm.
And then, deciding to make the most of his limited time, he decides that he's going to pull off the greatest crime wave of his career, because no one can stop him. So, of course, this leads to the creation of the Seven Soldiers. The bad guys he recruits are Red Dragon, Professor Merlin, Big Caesar, and the Needle, and also the Dummy.
Yeah.
The Dummy, which is a cool,
Forget
actually.
the 5 fingers of the hand.
Ah, okay.
He calls them
That's-
that many times, and I'm like, stop.
Yeah,
doing that.
stop. So
Stop
we
it.
should point out that we just kind of went through the characters and their partners. So it's Green Arrow and Speedy, Crimson Avenger and Wing, Star Spangled Kid and Stripesy, and then Shining Knight and Vigilante don't have partners. So those are the Seven Soldiers.
Shining Knight has winged victory.
Okay, if you want to count him,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Any fairy princess tale knows that you always count the horsey.
Okay. So
Have
then
you seen
technically,
She-Ra? The horse is a character.
Yes.
okay, this is true. So we should, as we mentioned, each chapter is also written and drawn by a different team. So the main chapter is Mort Weisinger and George Papp. Sorry, Superman fans, I pronounced it wrong, but Mort Weisinger is most familiar or most famous for editing Superman for like 20 years, like during its most famous period in the Silver Age, when all the great ideas were introduced, like Bottle City of Candor, Bizarro, Mr. Mixes-Pillow was before that, but the Phantom Zone, all that stuff, Supergirl, Crypto. So he started out as a writer here. George Papp is the artist. Then the Star Spangled Kid is by Jerry Siegel and Hal Sherman. Crimson Avengers by Mort Weisinger and Jack Lehti. Shining Knight is Mort Weisinger and Creig Flessel. And then Vigilante is by Mort Weisinger and Mort Meskin. So anyway, we're not going to talk about this, but Josh, you're kind of flipping through as we're chatting here.
Right. Yeah, this, I don't know. I didn't love it. It definitely feels like nothing is cohesive. Like, it feels like they had all of these stories already done and in a book, and then they went, let's connect them all together at this point. There's nothing really connecting them there except for at the end, usually tacked on in like a panel or two, The Hand is like, dang it, my plan. That's okay. I'll go to somebody else now. Like there's nothing really going on. And then at the end, it's almost like we have this backup story where it's all of the characters kind of just showing up to the Hand's base to give him a good old knock in the face, and then he's defeated. So
right.
Not great. I don't know.
I'll just say briefly, yeah, it's on par with most of the Golden Age books that we've read. However, the art for Vigilante really stood out. And it's been a while since we did Vigilante. I don't remember if it was the same artist, since we don't do research or even check back to old episodes on the show. But this is Mort Meskin on Vigilante, and you don't have to rush to it, Josh, but it's definitely the best art. The rest is pretty standard Golden Age art. Some is better than others.
Right.
But that's pretty much my impression of it. Kind of just a typical Golden Age book. Bex Luthor, what did you think?
Are we not going to talk about how bad the art is for the Star Spangled Kid one? And how incredibly bad it is, and how terrifying the characters
the
look.
Faces are. Yes, we talked about that because it's the same artist from the single issue of Star Spangled Kid, and the art was the faces were grotesque.
Yeah, and I think that it has. I think we talked about it also having a comic strip feel to the even the story and the art. So I think that they kind of just kept that for the rest of the stories.
Right.
Yeah. It's not good. And also it does feel like a book for children.
Well,
and I know that I know, but Vigilante, I mean, look at the art in this, and then the story that's happening, it just feels more mature. It feels like it would appeal to a slightly older audience, where Star Spangled Kid and the big dumb stripesy sidekick definitely feels like it's geared a little bit younger. I don't know. I know this is for everybody, right? This comic books are for kids and for general audiences, and they can be for these, but it, to me, that one feels like the targeted audience is younger than most of these other ones.
Could be, yeah.
Dude, I wouldn't be a kid reading that. The needle is the most terrifying looking thing.
That's fair.
I've ever seen.
He's pretty
oh my
terrifying.
God.
That's true.
He's got Babadook energy and freaky long limbs.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that Vigilante fought a tiger. Remember when they did that? That was cool. That was pretty sick.
But do you guys agree? This art, even this page you're on, even just the top left, that panel where he's kind of framed by the wheel of the carriage. This is definitely the best art.
It's definitely the most thought out of the stories. This is when I got to this one, I kind of slowed down and started reading a little bit more of this one. I agree. This is very cinematic, this panel here in particular, the one that you're talking about. It's, I don't know, you would not see that in most of the other ones that we've read before this in this in this book. So I again, this is why it doesn't feel like it is made to be in the same universe, which is interesting because we'll talk about that again later on, I'm assuming, with the last issue we're going to be talking about.
Sure.
With the Grant Morrison one, because the same thing kind of happens with that book, but it's for a particular reason. And it's done on purpose for an effect. And here, I don't know, it just doesn't totally work for me as a one story.
Well, the other thing is, I guess we can also talk about how well do these characters fit together, because one thing I've noticed is that with this lineup of characters, none of them, Golden Age characters on average did not have as many superpowers as like the Silver Age. Golden Age characters would sometimes just, have a good left hook, or they're really smart or something. But if you look at these characters, Vigilante's a cowboy, Green Arrow and Speedy are archers, Star Spangled Kid and Stripesy can do nothing. I don't know. They have a cool car. That's about it.
Right.
Crimson
Their car
Avenger.
is indestructible. It cannot be shot or lasered.
There you go. Can't be lasered. And then Crimson Avenger and Wing also can't do anything. So the only character with any remotely super powers is Shining Knight, because he has an unbreakable armor, right? And his magic sword, and then his magic horse. So we have kind of like one supernatural character and then a bunch of street level characters. So it's kind of an odd collection of heroes, eh?
Yeah.
Becca, what do you think?
Yeah, it's all just the same guy repeated, right? Because
Okay.
well, they don't have a whole lot of personality in
That's
some
true.
of these. They're just, their personality is they are the hero.
Yes.
So anytime there's any sort of little bit of a personality, like Speedy's personality is that he's fucking annoying.
Yes.
And he doesn't shut up.
Yeah.
And Wing's personality is the same, but racist.
Right.
So
I mean,
they just quip. That's all they do, right? Is just that's their personality. So it's all just the copy pasted.
even their art when they're standing next to each other, the only reason I know that that's Vigilante or Green Arrow is because the mannequin that is standing there is wearing their costume. You know what I mean? Like there's no personality. There's nothing to them. I mean, if you took away their costumes, could you really tell them apart?
Well, I could tell Stripesy.
Maybe Stripesy.
Nightmare fuel, yeah.
And if Star Spangled Kid and Speedy were the same height as the other ones, I feel like, again, pretty much this. Like, I don't know. There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just a big nothing to me. I didn't care for any of it. I don't know.
It's interesting because the villains are actually very different and distinct.
Yeah.
Like the Needle and whatever the mob guy's name is, can't remember. Sorry. Whatever his name is, they're very different and distinct characters.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame because these characters do have a lot of history, and I'm sure that there are some great moments and great stories with them, but I just am very uninterested reading this one. And maybe it's because we've read the origins before for all of these heroes on this podcast, but reading this, I was like, there's nothing really here that I'm loving.
Well, I can also tell you the fact that we are not interested in them is reflected in their publication history, because apparently they only appeared 41 times before they were canceled.
As a group?
Yeah.
Wow. That's still not a lot.
No, it's not. But you know what? Actually, that's incorrect. I'll say, 14 times. Sorry. They appeared in 14 issues of Leading Comics, then they were canceled. So I'm saying that the original incarnation, obviously later on they came back in Justice League. But the original team only lasted 14 issues before it was canceled.
Which is just over a year.
Right. Assuming it was monthly, but yeah, probably just over a year. But it's funny because if you look at the next, like Leading Comics number 15, it turns into a humor book. It's like just completely unrelated characters. So yeah, these characters were the B team. They were not successful. Everyone forgot about them. And then they disappeared for 10, 20, maybe 30 years. And then they were brought back in JLA number 100.
Right.
Which we're going to talk about next. And we didn't really plan this out before we rolled, but I would like to summarize the Grant Morrison issue if I can. So would someone else like to volunteer to summarize Justice League 100? Oh, Bex Luthor.
Oh, no, okay. Shit. I'm ready. I'm paying attention.
All right. Tell us what happened in Justice League of America number 100.
So, it's the 100th meeting of the Justice League.
Yes.
So that's fun. And all the Justice League members are individually rushing to get to their headquarters to eat cake.
Yep.
And some of them are busy, like Martian Manhunter here. He's busy rebuilding Mars, I'm assuming. So he can't make it. Sucks to suck. But they all show up and they join together, and just as they start to, Zatanna just pops up on the table.
Right.
Classic. Wonder Woman doesn't have her powers at this point. I'm assuming she's just like a super spy. Like that's what's going on in this era, and she seems bitter about it. So they're just gonna start cutting this cake when they all get teleported to the Earth 2, where the Justice Society is having a meeting. So we've got so the Justice League members, that's like the full roster of your basic Justice League, and then a couple add-ons like Elongated Man's there. And then so they show up to Earth 2.
Yeah.
And your favorite guys. So they show up to Earth 2, and all of the Earth 2 Justice Society members are very upset. You've got Dr. Fate, you've got the other Wonder Woman, Red Tornado, Wildcat, Dr. Midnight, Hourman, Johnny Thunder, Sandman. That's all.
Did you say Starman?
Oh, Starman's also there. Forgot. Don't forget, he's Cosmic Rod. They're all saying, hey, we brought you here because a giant hand is going to crush our world, and that needs to not happen, so we would like your help. And they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, that you couldn't do. So Dr. Fate goes to Zatanna, and he's like, hey, Zatanna, I need your help. We need to summon the Oracle, just the Oracle, with your magic, and to figure out what this inscription on this grave means. Because when Dr. Fate uses his powers, the only information he can gather is this gravestone that says, what does it say? Inscription, something about the last soldier.
Here lies, yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Here in honor glory rests unknown soldier of victory who died that his world might have lived. Okay, cool. Yeah. So they're like, I don't know what that means. So they summon the Oracle. And the Oracle, he's constantly misunderstood, but it's his fault. He talks in such an asshole way. He's like, no, you're not listening to me. I actually said this. So then he tells the story of the 7 soldiers of victory and how they all died, air quotes, fighting the Nebula Man. That's his name. But they actually didn't die. And these are all also Earth 2 past years. They didn't die. They've been displaced in time, which is why nobody remembers them.
Including you. The reader.
You, the reader. You don't remember them because a man made of stardust has displaced them in time. So Oracle's like, you all have to now travel through time to find the 7 soldiers of victory and bring them back together and remind them of who they are. So we only see one group in the rest of this issue, which is
they all split up into different teams. And it's Dr. Fate, the Atom, and Elongated Man.
Yeah, and they go find the Crimson Avenger, who is in ancient Aztec, wherever he is, and he's being treated like a sun god.
Right.
So basically they just punch sense into him.
Yeah. Essentially.
And then they go, what's this behind this curtain? And it's a big rock, and the rock is making him think he's a sun god. So they destroy it, and he's like, whoa, what happened? And they're like, you're the Crimson Avenger, don't worry. We'll take care of you, and we'll bring you back to modern day. And then that's it for this issue. Not a lot happened, but it was long. Oh, and then we find out that the big hand that is going to crush Earth 2 is like literally the Hand, who is the main villain in the last issue we read. The introduction of the 7 soldiers of victory, who thought he was dying, but we forgot to mention at the end of that issue, the doctor called him. He's like, yo, actually, you're not dying. Just kidding. So now he's literally a hand, but I guess he's the Iron Hand now.
Right.
So yeah,
Great reintroduction to some beloved characters.
So yeah, here's the thing. So Len Wein, may he rest in peace. He's one of the most prolific writers of the 70s, right? There's this group of people, Len Wein, Jerry Conway, Roy Thomas, and Merv Wolfman. Those four pretty much, who, I'm not kidding, they wrote every single DC and Marvel comic of the 70s. They just rotated. Like, especially Marvel, if you look at Marvel, they just rotated through those guys. So Len Wein, he did a lot of classic famous stories, a lot of famous characters. And I can appreciate, like, if I were to just look at this art, which I like, and the basic plot is okay, but there's so much annoying dialogue in this issue that takes me out of it. And when I was younger, I could forgive it, but like this, I really can't stand the part with when they're first explaining who the Seven Soldiers are, and then Wildcat is like, "Sure, the Seven Soldiers of Victory. We should have thought of them sooner. Hey, wait a second. There's something wrong here. I can't remember who in blazes are the Seven Soldiers of Victory." Like, well, couldn't they have done the same story beat just a little bit more subtle instead of just I mean, it just irks me.
We could have just had him saying, "You need to remember," and then we could have cut to this panel of him saying, "Who in the blazes are the Seven Soldiers of Victory?"
Right. Exactly.
Like, it's just,
or he could have just said, "Okay, but seriously, who are?" He didn't have to say what. I'm just saying, and I don't want to be nitpicky here, but there are certain things that really grate me about 60s and 70s comics, and don't get me wrong, I love this period, but I just think that there's certain things they could have done to make them a little bit more palatable. But overall, I did like the art in this issue, and I like the idea of bringing back the Seven Soldiers, but it's just that some of those little things got on my nerves. Becca, what did you think?
Yeah, it's very interesting to read all these characters interacting again, because I love when Earth 1 and 2 collide. That's fun. But yeah, there was a lot of things where it was just like, cool. And then you move to the next panel, and like basically everything the Oracle said, I was like, it was like just a lot of this could have been an email, like
yes.
And what you're saying, Wildcat is like, who are they? And there's like, the Oracle immediately goes, "Oh, you don't remember them because they're displaced in time." And then they're like, "Oh, okay." And then we just keep going, and there's just lots of stopping and starting, and not a whole lot of flow. I liked the first half where the Justice League is like all trying to eat cake together.
Yes, right.
But the moment they just get instantly teleported to Earth 2 for no rhyme or reason, it just kind of goes downhill.
Right.
Yeah, even the Oracle at this point was like, "Listen, Wonder Woman, we don't have time for this. Let's move on, hurry." And then, like, pushes all of our heroes through space and time. Yeah, it's a little convoluted, which is but I think only in the dialogue. The premise, I think, is very straightforward. It's just that it's like, okay, let's get to it. Like, come on, Yeah, I think it could be a good story if edited down. I mean, I don't like, we get two origins of all the heroes. Like, all of the seven soldiers. We get this splash page of the recounting of all of them, and then afterwards he describes them again,
right?
Saying kind of like where they were during their first team up. It's like, why not just say the story of how they first got together, and they're, after that, they were pushed away through time. It just is. It's a lot.
Well, I hate to say it, but I don't want to pick on these guys, but my age group grew up on these comics, and they hold them in high regard. And if you criticize these comics, you get into one of those Facebook battles that we all love so much. But the truth is that this generation of writers sorry, they were not professional writers. They were fans turned writers, right? At least in the golden age and the silver age, you had people who had experience in either novels or pulps or magazines, and then they would become writers, right? They'd work for DC or Marvel. Nowadays, you have people who either start in comics and go on to TV and film, or they go the opposite way. But, you know, for all the criticisms of modern comics, these are working writers. Like Ed Brubaker writes comics, but he also does TV and film. You know, Greg Rucka, you know, Brian K. Vaughan was one of the writers for Lost. So these people are working writers. So the fact is that I hate to say it, but this is basically just slicked up fan fiction, you know, and it's definitely fun.
Ooh, yeah.
When I crack open these 70s books, I'm always like, here we go. And the art is usually really good. But then as soon as I start reading it, I'm like, oh no, here we go again,
right.
You know? And someone actually gave me a box of JLA comics from like issue like 80 something to like 200 something. And I like put them on such a pedestal. I'm like, oh, one day I'm going to read them all. And I sat down to read them. Folks, I could not get through them. I just couldn't. I just started skim reading. They're unreadable. And again, there's a generation of people that have a great affection for them, but I just don't think they're well written. Sorry. Anyway.
I agree. I think that what you said about it feeling like fan fiction, that is kind of what it's like, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm sure we're going to be losing listeners left and right for me saying that. All
right.
You could preface and say bad fan fiction versus good fan fiction.
Okay, fine.
Right, because if somebody were to hack into Michael Poirier's Google Drive and find his Seven Soldiers of Victory
revival.
fanfic, so I'm sure that's really good.
Me too.
I mean, it's got to be better than this. So, yeah, it's an interesting concept. I think that the execution is just boring again, which is kind of a bummer because I feel like we haven't really had a chance in any of these origins to see what's special about this team together.
Good point. All they did was tell us.
Yeah. And then even in the first one, when we're supposed to see them like teaming up, they kind of all individually do their thing.
Good point.
And when they are in the same room together fighting the hand, they don't team up. Like they don't work together to figure out what's going on. It's kind of just whatever. And then in this one, they're again separated. I'm assuming that they're going to come back at the end of the story to come together, but as of right now, it's just kind of like meandering around talking about their past and who these heroes are and not like moving to further the story. So
yeah, it's okay for the story to be for kids. And it's okay for the story to be simple, but you're right. It's almost like it would have been better to have a situation where maybe the Justice League gets taken out or they face a foe that they can't defeat. Who can save them? The Seven Soldiers. And then the Seven Soldiers come in and they do something no one else could do. Like maybe because of the Shining Knight, or they have some clever something. I don't know. Because otherwise, yeah, it's like you said, they're just telling us about them over and over again, but we don't really see much other than Crimson Avenger showing up in the story. And, let's find out what makes the Crimson Avenger unique. Let's stick him back in ancient Mexico where he becomes the king of the Aztecs. So that's idiotic, you know?
Yeah.
That's not Crimson Avenger. Crimson Avenger, when he started out, was like a Green Hornet, like clone. So wouldn't it have been cool to go to the pulpy 1930s,
right?
Like Shadow or Dick Tracy? Give us that.
Yeah.
Stick this guy in ancient Mexico.
Or like the Earths that they're ripped to or whatever. They are pulled into a world that is similar to their own, so they can kind of like adapt into that society well. So that way too, when our heroes and us as readers dip into that story and save that hero to bring him back, we kind of get a feel of who that character is, what their powers are, what they're all about, what their comics were about when, back in the day when they were, still had regular issues and stories.
Well,
it's it's almost there to be really good, I feel like.
So, Becca, we are spinning gold right here. Feel free to contribute because if you want copyright status on this idea.
I was just going to say that it is unfortunate that this is the only seven soldier that we see in this issue, because the other ones make more sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Green Arrow is trapped in medieval England and has been mistaken for Robin Hood.
Oh, that's really cool, actually.
It's not bad, yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on, I don't remember. That's the one I remember. Oh yeah, Vigilante is like in the Old West.
Mhm.
There you go.
They're just like
There
the
you
cowboy
go.
in the Old West. I'm gonna look this up really quickly because I don't remember the other ones.
Well, as you're saying that, Becca, I'm just going to say my final idea is, what if they faced a foe and the JLA had to find them to get the team together? But like you said, it's like, oh, we have to go to the Old West and get Vigilante and pull them into the present. We have to go to 1930s, whatever, to get Crimson Avenger. We have to go to medieval Europe, England, to get Shining Knight. That would have been a cool story.
Yeah.
Right? And then we see them all in their environment, and you go, oh, these are cool characters, I want to read more about them. But in this,
Shining Knight was fighting Genghis Khan for some reason.
that makes no sense, but okay. Yeah. It's a little bit.
Speedy was fighting Circe in Greece, so that one makes less sense. And the Star Spangled Kid was just 50,000 years in the past.
That makes no sense. Okay.
Yeah, never mind. The only two I remembered made sense. The rest of them didn't. That's probably why I didn't remember them.
Oh man.
So here's the thing. Well, Becca, you actually went ahead and read the next two issues.
I did. I skimmed it too.
And
I'll be honest.
Okay. And
I just wanted to know what happened.
What'd you think of the story?
So fun fact: Redemption. The unknown soldier of victory is Wing. Is
really?
The Crimson Avengers? Yeah.
Oh, that's a cool idea. That's actually cool.
So what happens is it turns out that this Nebula man, when he disperses them in time, they defeated him because they create this Nebula rod. However, whoever wields the Nebula rod is killed, and Wing, while the whole seven soldiers are fighting over who is going to do it, Wing just takes it and does it, and sacrifices himself. And the displacement of that shoots everybody to different time periods. So the monster's not actually dead, they're just all displaced. So what they do is when they bring everyone back together, they make another rod. And so they're all fight. So it happens again, like the Justice League and the Justice Society are all fighting about who's going to wield the rod to kill the Hand. And Red Tornado just grabs it and does it and dies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh.
Issue 103. Yeah, he just dies. I was reading the recap on just on the DC fandom website, and it said, it right at the end it says, shortly afterwards, Earth 2 ceased to exist following the Crisis on Infinite Earths. So nothing mattered anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, the seven soldiers were reunited and created a new Nebula Rod to deal with the giant hand of the Iron Hand. Unfortunately, whoever used the Nebula Rod to destroy the hand was certain to perish, as did the Crimson Avengers part of Wing, revealed to be the unnamed soldier of victory.
That's so funny.
Then the android Red Tornado takes the new Nebula Rod and destroys the hand, apparently destroying himself in the process.
So, I guess
that's interesting because I'm pretty sure the Seven Soldiers by Grant Morrison also takes place immediately. I think a week before Crisis.
Does it?
Yeah, with the New 52, it's like a week. It takes a week before all of that. So again, that's all kind of wiped.
All wiped out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love DC, right?
Oh man.
So like this happens, and then literally the seven soldiers aren't seen of again until they are at the grave of the Crimson Avenger.
The seven horsemen of the DC apocalypse.
Oh, it was an issue of DC Comics Presents, right? Like whatever happens. Yeah, okay.
The Crimson Avenger dies, and they all go to his grave, and then Grant Morrison's Seven Soldiers happen, and then none of this happens, so it doesn't matter anymore.
Isn't that great?
And then 70 years of comic book history is just like, what if we just let's redo that?
I know. So,
but yeah, so shout out to Wing for being
hopefully.
But I'm pretty sure he's still drawn kind of racist.
Oh, sick. That's great.
There's no winning for him, unfortunately.
Poor Wing.
And he did sacrifice himself to save all those white men. Yeah. So that's how that. So then they just get them all together, and then because they never really had any personalities to start with, they still don't. So they just go, "Oh, I'll sacrifice myself. No, I'll do it." And then Red Tornado just goes, "I'll do it," and just goes, "Burp." It's very funny. And it's a very anticlimactic ending. And I believe at the end, the Justice League go back to Earth 1 and continue eating cake.
Oh, that's good.
That's great. That's your happy ending.
Yeah, I guess I can say I like the vibe of these comics, but not the actual writing.
Yeah.
But I like the vibe.
Yeah, I agree.
Does that make sense? Okay.
It feels like a comic book. I feel like this story could not happen in any other circumstance besides a comic book. Like, it's just so comic booky.
Yeah.
The story, the art, the way that the characters talk to each other, like it's such it's
what the average person on the street thinks a comic book is.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
It is the reason why so many of us, when we were younger, were scared to get into comic books because we didn't know where to start. Because you're like, oh, Justice League issue 100, I'll read that, and then you're like, who the hell are any of these people?
Yes.
There's so much, and you didn't have Wikipedia back then, so you're like,
right. That's the thing too, right? Like
what is Crimson Avenger?
To be honest, it made it kind of exciting because you had to like ask friends, right? And like, or like go to I had one, but I would like go to a comic shop and like just piece together what you could. It made it kind of exciting. But anyway,
so I just wonder, like the reveal of Wing being the secret soldier of victory, and you're like, oh, you, Mike, were like, that's really cool. I wonder how many people read this when it came out and had the same reaction. We're like, oh my god, the Crimson Avenger sidekick. Or we're like, who?
Who the hell is
what?
Probably
What's
that.
A Wing?
Right.
Yeah.
I remember that guy who made 14 appearances in the 1940s, 20 years ago. I remember that, yeah.
But I know there was somebody who did have that moment, and this was for them.
Yeah.
Like, if we had guests on this podcast, like one-off guests that we had during Spidercast, if we had somebody on who was not familiar with comics and we gave them this, I don't think that they would have had a good time at all.
There's a reason this podcast has a very short lifespan ahead of it. But anyway, we'll talk about that another time.
All right.
Sometimes comic books are for everyone, and sometimes they're for a specific few people who know 65 years worth of backstory. Okay?
Thanks for watching Slam, everybody.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. It's the modern age, and now we have Wikipedia, and now we have DC.fandom, and now you can have a plethora of knowledge of the backstory of all of these characters in a couple hours worth of reading, instead of having to physically find comic book issues from 40 years ago.
Right.
So that's kind of cool.
It's definitely cool. It's one regret I have is that I really wish that I had access to all these comics when I was growing up, because I used to pine over, like, I used to have a book, the X-Men Index, that showed all the covers. Like and I just look at them like, oh, I can't wait to read this. Can't wait to read it. And then finally, when I got to read them, like last year, I'm like, oh fuck. Oh fuck. I waited this long to read these? Holy moly, Like,
I had this book when I was growing up, and it was like a compendium of Marvel characters, and it told you like their, like, who they are, their origins, some of their alternate costumes. Can't remember for the life of me what it was called, but I read that thing back to front, like it was destroyed.
Yes.
Because that was what I had.
I read Who's Who cover to cover. To cover. Yeah.
Look at it's our boy Snapper Carr. He didn't go. He didn't go to the. Do you not remember Snapper Carr? He's because he snaps.
Oh my goodness.
He was in the Justice League issue we read, and he was like just a guy.
Oh my god, that's right. Wow.
And I
Hey.
and I want to know.
Oh my god, I don't know how I missed that. That's so funny.
And he was like just a kid that followed the Justice League around.
Right, he was just like a cool Fonzie kind of guy.
But apparently, at some point in between then and now, he's betrayed the entire Justice League.
Wow.
Or is he talking about how he was mind controlled? Because that's what happened, right? I cannot remember.
Yeah, that story was JLA 77. Well, let me look that up real quick.
But I was like, oh my god, it's Snapper Carr. Are you kidding me? If
That's
he goes
so
and
funny.
eats this cake, I'm gonna be pissed.
Hey,
And
that's a good vanilla cake.
yeah, not allowed, actually.
Let's see.
Snapper resigned from the league voluntarily after a plot by the Joker tricked him into betraying his friend.
Oh, he's recognized as a friend of the Justice League by a group of malcontents. They attack him in the street until he is saved by John Doe, who's proclaimed as Mr. Normal. He's hailed as the most normal man in America.
Love
Doe
that.
manages to convince Snapper into joining his cause to make America more normal and help him in his campaign to get rid of superhuman freaks. Astonishingly, Snapper begins to believe in Mr. Doe's words and agrees to help him. So he wasn't really tricked. I mean, he wasn't really tricked necessarily.
So this guy was just like, hey, the guys aren't your friends. They're freaking weirdos. And he's like, maybe you're right. No, you're the weirdo, Snapper. Your name is Snapper. And then I guess Mr. Normal is the Joker at the end.
Which makes sense, yeah.
So he tricked Snapper Carr to betray the Justice League?
So yeah, he sets off his distress signal, and Batman shows up. Batman and the Atom show up. Mm-hmm. So he Snapper gasses Batman to take prisoner, and they leave Atom behind.
Irrelevant.
Yeah. They tie up Batman in a steel room filled with poisonous gas.
Jesus.
But they strap him in an oxygen mask and force him to watch a monitor that displays Doe's plot. Doe would then disguise himself as Batman and infiltrate the JLA headquarters, telling the Justice League that Doe has invited them to see his rally and answer for themselves. Doe makes a mistake when he doesn't recognize Black Canary, as she hasn't been revealed as a member to the public yet. So during the rally, JLA figured out, I don't know, they end up beating up Normal Man and
Normal Man.
What is this?
So Vex pointed out while you were gone that, do you see who this is right here?
Snapper Carr? That's
Snapper.
Okay.
And what it says here is he's left behind because he's betrayed the JLA.
Yes, yeah.
So we were just reading the plot of that story of
Gotcha.
He wasn't really tricked necessarily.
No.
It's just some guy named John Doe who called himself Mr. Normal convinced him that superheroes are freaks and they should all die. And Snapper goes, okay. And helps this random guy he just met gas Batman, so that way John Doe can pretend to be Batman and go to the Justice League headquarters and take down the JLA from the inside. It turns out that this guy was the Joker in disguise. But yeah, how he convinces Snapper is to just tell him you should betray your friends. And he goes, okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Could you imagine if Snapper Carr got sent to Earth 2 and was in the whole comic and had to go save one of the 7 soldiers of victory?
And he's the one that grabs the rod at the end and sacrifices himself.
See, there you go. That'd have been cool.
And saves Red Tornado.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
No, instead he's just sad in one panel because God forbid we leave out Snapper
Right.
Carr.
Why is he even here?
I think they
have to explain why he's not at the 100th meeting.
Right.
Yeah, I think they purposely dug, they scraped the bottom of the barrel. That's why they gave Martian Manhunter that appearance, just to show like where everyone was,
right.
But by the way, I didn't notice till you said it, I think, Becca, but when they show Martian Manhunter, he's like, can you go back to that page where
yeah, right here.
One more. Yeah. It's like he has like all this 1968 technology. Like it's not even
like a
futuristic
crane,
or Martian. Yeah. Like, and he's got like a paper blueprint that he's looking at, But I like how
what else is he supposed to be looking at? A hologram? They don't have those.
It would be cool. And then, but I do like how they have the 2 moons of Mars in the sky there. I don't know how to pronounce it. What is it? Phoebus and Phobos? I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's exactly Phoebus and Phobos.
Okay. Moons of Mars.
Man.
No. It's Phobos and Deimos. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Becca.
Snapper Carr develops the ability to teleport when snapping his fingers.
What? That's actually kind of a cool idea for a power, but
he did not discover this ability until Dominator testing revealed his latent metagene and joined the blasters.
That sounds like a 1989 idea, and it is.
Yes, 1989 invasion. So yeah, Snapper Carr makes it to the 89 issue of the Justice League and finally gets powers.
Yeah, I'm just happy he survives Infinite Crisis.
I want to read just the history of him.
Okay.
Boy, oh boy. Okay.
Possibly on another episode of Slam, we should do a
special.
The many incarnations of Snapper Carr. However,
okay, for now.
This episode, we got to talk about 7 Soldiers of Victory number 0. And we should say this came out in, was it 2003?
Oh, maybe 6. I thought it was earlier than that for some reason.
We're way off. Hold on, let me just find out here.
2005?
That sounds more.
So in between our 2 answers.
Yeah, 2005.
It has a lot of The Boys energy.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's around there. Although, again, we don't do research on the show. Oh, wait a minute. All I have to do is click on the link here. Hold on. I've got it right here. It's 2005. Yeah, April 2005.
Okay.
So we should say that this was an odd series. There's like mini-series and maxi-series. Grant Morrison called this something else. He used some other word like meta-series.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. Because basically what it is 7 Soldiers number 0 introduces all these characters. Then you have to go and read all the mini-series that come after it, which are Bulleteer, Frankenstein, Clarion, Manhattan Guardian, Mr. Miracle, and Shining Knight, and Zatanna. Then you come back for 7 Soldiers number 1.
And then
the story ties
done.
together.
Yeah.
This was an experimental book and very highly recommended. I've read the whole thing, and there's some really good writing and some really good art. Each series is by a different artist, and there's some really good stories here.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that, again, this is where the concept works, and maybe where he even got the idea to kind of have the characters separated from each other, because the whole I don't know if you want to talk spoilers for the end of this arc.
Let's just quickly. Oh, you mean number 0? Because I haven't read
for 1. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't reread it in 15 years, so I'd rather not. I'd rather wait.
Okay, I won't say anything. But it's pretty cool that they I think it's on purpose, because this is something that Grant Morrison does, is he takes these like concepts that nobody really cares about anymore and gives them new life. And even the whole like turning point, like the plot of this kind of plays on the fact that we never really see the heroes in the original Seven Soldiers of Victory, like even like hang out or like work together. Like it's
interesting,
which is why in this, like, all the characters have their own little mini series and they don't cross over with each other in the mini series. Like it's just their own stories throughout.
Sure.
So it's pretty cool. And then again, having different artists come in to do the different mini series also kind of plays into the fact that these are completely different stories that just happen to be happening in this universe. And I think it's super clever. So I love that. But yeah, let's talk about the beginning of all that.
Seven Soldiers of Victory, number 0. And again, we're not going to go into super detail, but we basically start out with, who is this again? Darn it.
This is Spider?
Spider?
Right?
Oh, I Spider,
yeah.
And he's traveling, he's interacting with a guy, taking him across Slaughter Swamp. And we all know what Slaughter Swamp is, right, Becca?
That's where Solomon Grundy is from.
Yes. So cool. That's so cool. I love it. But again,
I was like, oh shit, my comic book knowledge just left my brain immediately.
But I love the way Grant Morrison, see, this is the difference. He takes these ideas that we read as a kid and he spins them in a way that makes them so interesting. I just love it. This whole opening sequence is great. The art by J.H. Williams is incredible, you know? Mm-hmm. I just love it. So he's brought across Slaughter Swamp, and then of course it's a Grant Morrison comic, so we've got to like jump around to this sort of meta subplot where we see someone drawing like with a pen. We see the number 7. We're not quite sure what's going on, and we're getting different characters' point of view. We're hearing different voices. We don't quite know who's saying what. And then we're getting references to all these cool ideas like the 7 unknown men of Slaughter Swamp and all this other really cool stuff. Again, we're seeing flashes of other characters. And then basically this guy is walking through kind of like it looks like a comic book drawing of reality. And like the panels are all twisting around each other, right? And like color is like draining from his face into the drain. It's really cool. And then we kind of cut over to the scene, and we're introduced to this character. Wait, what's her name again? Is this Gimmicks?
No, this is the Whip.
Oh, this is the Whip. This is the Whip. So we
Can't
should
you tell from how bondagey she is?
Well, we should say that the Whip. There was another Whip in the 1940s. So this is again
his daughter.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. But I'm saying, like, in reality, there was another Whip. Mm-hmm. I just have to point that out to our listeners that don't know. So this is the new Whip, and she's wearing, like, sort of fetish gear / superhero costume.
They're the same. It's
what's the difference?
The story is called Weird Adventures, and it's got this funky, like, retro lettering. I love it. Part 1, Shelley and the Super Cowboys. So we see her narrating this. Oh, I'm sorry. I just love this stuff. Like this gang of supervillains getting away on like these pogo sticks. It's just so cool. She like crashes down on them and kicks all their asses. And then she kind of like wakes up and, you know, she's again, I always have to read Grant Morrison comics like 6 times before I fully understand what's going on. But it's like zipping through her thoughts, and we're seeing like the original Whip. We're getting references to Vigilante. We see the 7 Soldiers, the original versions, and then oh my god, and then I don't even remember what happens here. I have no idea.
She's on the phone, and we're kind of hearing her side of the conversation. We're not not hearing what the other person is saying, as she's kind of also like thinking about what's going on, and she's getting invited to join this guy for a job, and she's being hired, and she's kind of like thinking to herself, like what it means to be superhero, and like, is this finally what's going to make me like an actual hero? Is that what's going to make me feel like I'm really doing something, and that this just isn't a gimmick or like a fetish or something, you know? So
and then there's some cool lines here. How do you know when you become a superhero and not just a crazy fetish person with a death wish? Yeah. Is it when the joke becomes real? It's just little things like that I love. Mm-hmm. Then we cut over. Now, this is what's cool is that this is the same artist, but if you're familiar with J.H. Williams is a chameleon. He did Promethea with Alan Moore, and he also did Batwoman with Greg Rucka in like the 2000s. I'm familiar with
that one, yeah.
Yeah, and he's able to imitate anyone's style. So I don't know if this is supposed to be a specific artist, but with this chapter here, it's in the Old West, and all of a sudden it's like, yes, this is how the Old West should be drawn in a comic book. The texture of the rocks and the trees and the people's faces, there's a lot more lines, there's a lot more texture, and it's just, the colors are incredible. Like, I just love this. And so who the hell is this again? I don't remember. Is this her?
This is Vigilante.
Oh no, this is Vigilante. Yeah, this is Vigilante.
And the Whip.
Yeah.
The Whip. Yeah. And so again, now most of these characters are new, but Vigilante is the actual Vigilante from the original Seven Soldiers. The rest of the characters are this is their first appearance. So hold on a sec here, just flipping around here. Shit, what happened? And so then and so again, we're getting references to a bunch of stuff that we're just getting hints at, but they come upon this these what are the ghost spiders? Oh no, they come across a bunch of spiders, and they say the Indians say the buffalo spider is a ghost animal from the ghost country, bad luck, omen of doom. And I don't remember what happened.
And this is kind of like what leads into Vigilante telling her what the job is about, which is he's putting together this team to go fight a giant spider. And he's talking about this folktale about how this place that they're going to is kind of this part of the world, like this valley where it's like a crossroads between Earth and the gods' realms, and the gods would come here to do battle. And that's why they want to go kill this spider, because that was one of the last things that the Seven Soldiers of Victory were doing before they disbanded, and Vigilante thinks that this spider is still at large.
Right. And we get this really cool, I guess you can call it splash page after this. The double. Is that going to show up on your display there? Yeah.
Yeah. I can.
Okay.
Zoom in too.
It's just we see this room of them all sitting there, and we see Jacqueline Pemberton. Hold on a sec. I got to zoom in.
Sorry.
It's Gimmick.
No problem. Yeah. So this is Gimmicks, and then we see the kid sitting there, Boy Blue. He's got a ghost suit, which makes him lighter than air or harder than diamond, and a horn that emits sonic impact vibrations. And then I love this little add-on. He refuses to tell anyone where he got it.
Right.
Like, these are characters who Grant Morrison invented and were never seen again. And there's so much imagination in each of them. Then we've got a guy, Dynamite Dan, who's a combination of, who is it? Dan the Dynamite and TNT. Like, he's combined their powers into one suit. Such a cool
and he's like a superhero fanboy and bought their magic rings off of eBay so he could become his own superhero, which is really funny. Like, until I was finished this issue and went and Googled these heroes, I thought that they were existing heroes like the Seven Soldiers.
No, first appearance and they all die.
Yeah.
And the thing is until I think it was Marvel Boy by Grant Morrison. That was the first time I ever came across the concept of a superhero or villain using eBay to buy like obscure superhero gear. And I think it was in that story where someone in Marvel Boy bought Tony Stark's original gold Iron Man armor, and they were just wearing it. Huh. Because if it was because you just got to think, when you try to make superheroes realistic, you don't just make them dark and brooding like Frank Miller. You got to think, no, if superheroes were real, supervillains would steal like Tony Stark's equipment and just sell it on eBay, and people would buy it. Like, oh, look, I've got Captain America's second shield from 1942. Like, things like that would happen, and it's a very clever idea. So I love this whole concept here. Yeah. But anyway, hold on a sec here. Sorry, am I clicking around again?
Sure, yeah.
Where the hell am I? Okay. So then it's so hard. Okay, it's hard to summarize, partly because I don't remember, partly because it's hard to understand, and partly because it's so like um, like not a typical story, but we're still getting the narration from what's her name, right?
Whip.
Whip.
Yeah.
And I love how she's narrating. She's this guy. So they'll walk outside and this guy's flying down. They look up and in her narration, she's like, they say his blood is cold, like liquid nitrogen. They say he basks in the sun all day to soak up power like a lizard. And at night he strikes. And then we see him come out and it says, I, Spider. And he comes out, he's like, bait is laid. Truly, I am the man. And the narration, I hate this guy already. I love that. But then, of course, the next page, she has sex with him. It's so freaking funny. I just love it, you know? Like, I was actually screaming, laughing as I was reading this issue. It was just great. And then we see them all just go back to doing what they were doing. Like, it's just awesome. I love it. And then Josh, what happens here? And now now they're just eating breakfast, right?
Yeah, so now they're eating breakfast. They're going over the plan, and they make reference to the original 7 soldiers. They're talking about how they're gonna go. They plan to like put a tracker in this spider, and they're gonna take these like cool spaceship-looking things to fly down there. And attack it.
I love it. Yeah.
Mike, also your camera is off. I don't know.
Oh, it has been off this whole time?
No, it just flicked off. But yeah, so they ride off on these like futuristic chariots, and they come across like a one of the spider's molts, so they know that they're getting close. And then we get some banter with the characters, and it's all kind of like leading up to this moment where they shoot an arrow into the spider's head to track it down, and they kind of like battle it for a little while. We see Boy Blue using his horn. We see vigilantes like lassoing the thing. Whip is like climbing on top. And then at the very end, Vigilante shoots it in the head. Whip goes flying off of it. It's kind of a victorious moment when all of a sudden we see that this robot is kind of like, or this spider is like electronic, like a robot. Boy Blue's kind of looking at it, thinking like something weird is happening. Right. What's going on, and that's when they realize that they've been kind of baited there, and we get this really great line of, you told us the Indians called this the hunting grounds of the gods, so what kind of prey do you suppose gods might lower themselves to hunt? Rabbits? No, they're hunting superheroes.
Rabbits or superheroes.
Right.
It's so good. Yep.
It's such a great way to, and it just kind of like ends like we don't see them anymore. We just see like hellfire and all of these like skeletal gods coming down and demon looking things, like just destroying everybody. And yeah, they all die. And again, we kind of have this little epilogue of this, like, again, almost like voices or like spirits kind of coming from the not the Savage Swamp, what it's called, the Slaughter Swamp. Yeah. And yeah, we're left on this cliffhanger. And again, this jumps into these like multiple little 4-issue miniseries.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. And I wish we could have kept reading, but
yeah,
for another podcast.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
So since we've been talking so much, Becca, why don't you tell us what you thought of this issue?
I thought it was overzealous and pretentious.
Oh! Overzealous and pretentious. Why don't you expand on
that? Well, it gave me the boys' energy, like most things in this era kind of do, where it's like edgy for edgy's sake. And like, I get that the whip is supposed to be over exaggerated, but it's very on the nose about it.
I do agree with you there. It's a very strange character to like follow too. To like have be our like into this group.
It's like, yeah, so like it's our like narrator character, right? But it's almost like her whole thing is a mockery. So like her, like it's all like, and there's a lot of gratuitous shots of her in her underwear. I love the idea, and all of these characters are related to other characters, by the way. Like Blue Boy's uncle is literally the Hand, like from the old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Gimmick's her mom was somebody. Like they're all like semi-related. Like they're all like kind of legacy characters, but not really. They're all nobodies, but they're somewhat related to people that you'd never would have even bothered to remember. And I love the concept, and I think it's all very cool. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. It just felt very like, I'm being vague. Isn't that interesting? And I'm like, no, not really. Like, well, I don't want to read more. I don't care to know what happens next, because it didn't. Like, I read an entire issue of a comic, and I'm not interested in the plot. Which is wild, because I know what happens in this, and it's a lot. A lot happens.
Yeah.
In this whatever meta series that you want to call it, and one of my favorite characters of all time is in it later, Zatanna, who is briefly mentioned here. But God, I don't care. And I have such a love-hate relationship with Grant Morrison. Like, he has written some of my favorite things and some of my least favorite things of all time.
He's only written my favorite things of all time.
Well, I just find, is he the one that did We 3?
Oh, don't mention it, because We 3 is so awesome.
Okay, but he is that one, right?
But that's him, yeah.
So and like, I feel like him and I are on the same side of a lot of like issues, probably, and I'm sure he's a great person. But I find his writing to be so on the nose, and especially in We 3 and here, it's like We 3 is like, you should be vegan. Animals are people too. And in this one, it's like, yeah, it's the whole concept of the legacy heroes and this universe actually having depth and meaning, and then where this story leads to, and the number 7 and all that is very cool. And I'm just like so bored. I think he just makes it not fun for me. And I don't like saying that, because he's written some of my favorite Superman stuff.
All-Star Superman.
But it's not for me, man. And I can't get past the art. You guys are like gushing over it.
What? Oh my god.
It's 2005. I hate it.
It's what? Sorry, it's what? 5?
It's 2005. And like,
I don't see that.
I don't like the faces. I don't.
Did you read
that.
Batwoman? Kathy Kane? Or no?
Yeah.
Kane? Did you like
Kane?
that? Kate Kane?
I can't remember. So I probably didn't despise it. But, and like, I had never read this before. I know of this because I kind of know like the Zatanna part of it, because I just know it from that.
Right.
But
see, it's funny because I feel like any comic past basically 2000 will say, I don't think they really date, because this goes for most pop culture, but especially comics. And it's because I don't think that, I don't know, like, what's his name? J.H. Williams is still drawing today, and he still draws the same style. So this doesn't look anything like anything else that was out at that time. So I don't think to me, it doesn't look like 2005. It just looks like brand new, you know?
Yeah, I think if this was on the shelves today, I don't know, it wouldn't feel too out of place. but I do also see what Bex is saying. I agree. I really like the middle to end of the story. Once the characters are kind of all together, I'm liking their banter together. I like the idea that's being set forth. I like the idea that we're seeing this group of people come together to overcome this like villain that has escaped before, and it turns out to just be a lie to kind of set up this larger story. I think that's a really fun and interesting hook into this to figure out what is going on and how this is going to get stopped. I do agree though that the whip, I'm not really attached to her character, which is a shame because she is the one that we're following throughout. Maybe her ideals are interesting, but I think that her powers and costume and just like, there's not enough for me to connect with her, especially at the beginning when it's just her. And I think maybe that's also where you're feeling like the boys side of things.
It's just
right?
gratuitous for why. It doesn't,
especially since it's not like an established character.
Yeah, the
right?
art versus the writing for me, especially with the whip, it's just very, I can't, I'm so taken out of the story every time her tits are smushed against something. I just
right.
The thing is though, is I always take this stuff from Grant Morrison or whoever as parody, because there were characters like this in the 30s and 40s, like the Phantom Lady, right? Like, the Phantom Lady, right? The original Phantom Lady.
Mm-hmm.
Like her top was literally just two like, green suspenders over her breasts. And there were other characters like that, with like see-through tops and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But
I think all of these characters are satirizing, like all of them, like the kid with Boy Blue, they're throwbacks to 1940s characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it. So,
okay.
I guess it's just for me. It's like that fine line of, is it satire or are you just doing the thing?
Well,
right.
The shot of her smashing through the glass, that's definitely just doing the thing.
Well, she's also in her underwear for a lot of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she also has sex with the guy immediately.
That's
Like here's it. I understand that it's supposed to be satire,
Mhm.
but when you have, it's like you're right there on the line of satire and just doing the thing.
Right. I think it's because it's not actually saying anything. Like, what is it saying besides, remember, this used to be a thing? Like, it's not spinning it on its head. It's not like changing the status quo or doing something to be like, look at this thing and look at how it used to be. And isn't it like, it's just kind of there because it used to be. Are you saying right?
For her or for the rest of them?
For her.
For all of them?
I think for her in particular.
For her maybe. But for the rest of them, definitely, I think it is doing it right.
Yeah, because the other characters are just heroes with powers, right? Like, we just kind of, like, they're all fresh, interesting takes on different things. And I think that she is not that.
Sure.
So
maybe, yeah.
It just seems very pandering to me.
Mm-hmm.
In like a way that I wish it just was not.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's just, everybody else in this team is flawed, right? Like, they're kind of superheroes in just name alone.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like they get the same level of mockery that she does.
Right. And you know what, too, I think is kind of interesting is that she even, like, says, like, am I a superhero or is this just a fetish? And if this was if Whip wasn't one of the characters that was already recruited and we were following a different hero that was kind of like thinking about this, and her thoughts came from seeing Whip and how she is, like, how she acts as a superhero, and that's her internal dialogue, then I think the character of the Whip would fit fine in the story, because again, it's like it is kind of making commentary on those types of heroes and that type of like trope in comic books in general.
Sure.
Right. Where in this, I don't know, they're not saying anything by doing it besides look at this.
Well, here's the thing is, that all being said, I think that compared to the first two books we read, I know that there's one that I'm going to continue reading and two that I'm not. And this is definitely the one I'm going to continue reading, you know?
Yeah. And again, I also do really love this still. I do see what Bex is saying, and I agree. I did not care for that character even a little bit. But knowing where the story does go and having read, I finished Shining Knight after we read the first issue. I started reading The Bulleteer. Nice.
Yannick Paquette, right?
And then there's another one that I had saved. He's like the street level hero.
Manhattan Guardian?
Manhattan Guardian, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, I think that this idea is really good, and knowing where it leading up to, I think it's a really interesting idea for a miniseries. So
too bad it was all wiped out from existence. But anyway, what were you gonna say? Yeah.
Well, I just want to say that it's not that I won't continue to read these things, because I do know where they're going, and the Sheeta is a very interesting concept, and I do like all of that stuff afterwards. But I have to say that when you are reading things like this is the first issue, and I open it and I go, oh, this isn't for me. Like, I read this first issue and I go, oh, is every issue going to be like this? Am I going to have to do what I always have to do and read in between the lines to find female characters that I like? Or is it going to be the same kind of level of mockery and I'm just going to be like, okay, but I want to know what happens. So I just kind of, I don't know, it puts a weird taste in my mouth for the rest of it. And a lot of the times when I'm reading older comics, you gotta go, well, it was 2005, well, it was 1972. Like, you have to do that for a lot of things. Literally, when we were reading any of that Crimson Avengers stuff, yikes, that's way worse than this.
Oh yeah.
I'm only critiquing this so much because it's more modern.
Sure.
But that's just based, like, just racism, right? So you always have to read these things with a great of salt. And I wish it wasn't a freaking dominatrix. It's just so jarring.
I think
and it adds nothing. That's my problem. It adds nothing. If there was a purpose to it, if it was making some sort of commentary, or even if she wasn't the point of view character, if this character and Gimmicks were swapped, and Gimmicks was our point of view character, and Shelley was still a dominatrix and slept with the person, I probably wouldn't have been bothered by it as much. But like, you just can't. Just half of the comic is her tits. Just can't get over it.
Slight exaggeration.
If she's on the page, her boobs are out.
Wow. I mean, yeah, like when she's like flying in the spaceship too, she can't just be like sitting in the thing. It's like doing like a flip, and her boobs are like they have got like drag on them. It is, yeah.
A couple times it's satire, but you're just doing the thing.
Right.
So it gets better. I know it gets better because, like, well, Bulleteer is pretty bad, but I do like her better.
We should interview Yannick Paquette about Bulleteer.
She's really booby too, but and it's not. I have nothing against really booby characters. It's just when that's it. That bothers me. Well,
that's it. That wraps up our episode of Seven Soldiers. So here's the thing. As we pointed out, this concept was kind of erased from continuity, but who knows if it's back. I don't know. DC's continuity is so messed up. But it's been largely like some of these characters. Actually, I don't know if any of them came back after this. Maybe a few of them did, but not many of them. But
I don't think any of these characters.
No, not these ones. But I mean, like the other ones, like Clarion. Clarion's a Kirby character, but like
yeah, Clarion's been in like some Teen Titans.
JLA Dark, I think. Yeah.
Obviously Zatanna.
Frankenstein. I'm pretty sure.
Frankenstein came back by Jeff Lemire.
Pops in different places. So. Trying to think who else.
Oh, Mr. Miracle is another one, right? He's
old.
But I don't think the Bulletier has come back.
No.
I think.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, I think Bulletier was brought back in 52, but against Grant Morrison's wishes. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why didn't he want her brought back?
I don't know. Well, because it was done by a different writer, and she was treated kind of poorly in the story. Like she was kind of just like I think brought back and killed or something. I don't know. I can't remember exactly how it was handled, but it was one of those. But anyway, so I recommend this series, this whole mega series, whatever it's called, listing all Clarion, Mr. Miracle, all the characters we mentioned. So mixed review there. Going back to Leading Comics, yikes! There's only 14 issues of them, but I'm not going to read any more. The Justice League, as we discussed, it's fun, but it's not well written.
Yeah.
Well dialogued. But as we discussed, every character that appears on Slam was a member of either Justice Society or the Seven Soldiers, except for Aquaman. He was left out of both teams. Did you know that, Becca?
Well, can you blame them?
But he's so awesome, though.
Yeah,
I mean, they let the Star Spangled Kid in, but they didn't let Aquaman in. Come on.
They let Snapper Carr in.
Exactly.
Right.
There you go.
So I wouldn't feel too bad if I was Aquaman. Like, you know what? I'm good. I don't need to be a part of this.
So anyway, hopefully Bex can join us in upcoming episodes of Slam. Would you like me to check the database and find out what our next episode is?
I'm terrified to know.
Okay, well, it's a big one. Hope you can join us. Actually, it's going to be Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Oh, I have lots to say about Wonder Woman.
Good. So be sure to join us on our next episode in 2 weeks for Wonder Woman on Slam. Be sure to join us on Taped Crusaders. The next episode, I believe, is... I think
it's so weird because we're doing these ahead of time.
And we're out of order.
Yeah.
I believe
so
it is.
We're reviewing a lot of stuff right now. We're doing Dick Tracy. We've got
I know what it is.
Death of the Incredible Hulk. We've got a bunch of...
Those are all coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. A bunch of...
Be sure to join us. Yeah. And that's it. And thanks again for joining us, Bex Luthor.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Sorry, I ruined one of your favorite comics.
That's okay. I'm used to it. Anyway, and Josh, you take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. You can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. All of our stuff is also video format now, so you can watch the podcasts on our YouTube channel, specifically for Slam or Quasar or any of the comic book podcasts. You can actually visually see the comics as we're talking about them, so definitely head over there, have a watch, let us know what you guys think about the episodes, leave us a comment, and keep in touch. So yeah, until next time.
See ya.
Bye-bye.